Welcome to the world of scale modeling with Mike Ashe, where techniques, tips, and creativity come alive with dozens of tutorials, projects, tape-up reviews, and picture references to help you build better scale models and enjoy our wonderful hobby. Welcome to part 10 of our 10-part series on building and detailing the Decal Monogram 148 scale C-47. In this last video, I'm going to show you how I cut out my decals to greatly reduce the opportunity for any silvering. I'm going to demonstrate my sponging technique to replicate worn paint, and I'm going to show you how I use wedged makeup sponges to apply pencil pastel dust to the bottom and top surfaces of the aircraft for weathering as well as fading in the decals. This last video runs about 33 minutes, but that's because I demonstrated extensively how I apply the pastel dust with the makeup sponges. So let's get started.
I've got all the decals cut out from the original Monogram decal sheet, and they came out pretty good. So when I cut out decals, I try to get rid of all of the clear film around the decals. And around large insignia, it's not a problem. It becomes more of a challenge with these smaller ones, and you really want to try to get rid of the clear film from any enclosed areas like this, because that's where it tends to bubble. Even though you've glossed the surface, you can still get some bubbling in there. So these were mostly cut out freehand. The propeller decals, they'll be fine. I've got a high gloss coat on the propellers, and these will slide right off into place, and I very rarely have a problem with any silvering on these. And these large decals, there'll be a little bit of finessing to get these to slide off. This one, the Q, I'll probably slide the decal this way a little bit, hold it by the exposed paper, and then just slide it into place, and then I can manipulate it around. What you need to be careful is that this edge and this edge don't fold under. On the 9, it's going to be a little more of a challenging. I will probably push the decal a little bit this way, and then grab it by the paper with this tweezers and slide the whole thing this way. This way it prevents this from folding under itself. And even if it does, I can flip it back. So I'll also use the Microsoft 1 and 2 systems, which, let me grab these and show you. These work really, really well. This goes on first. This goes on second after the decal's been applied. So between glossing the surface and using the decal set and the decal sole here to really soften it up after it's been positioned properly, it really makes a big difference. I've used this for 30 years and it's never failed me. So just to show you, this is how I cut out the decals. So yeah, we're just about ready. These fuel cap decals right here, they came from this Kit World's decal sheet. I got this off of eBay, and so I will use these solid fuel cap insignia in red here in order to make the upper wing look good. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and put some decals on, and we'll go ahead and see how it looks. With the surface glossed with 2 coats of enamel polyurethane clear gloss, I installed the decals, and they came out pretty good. Again, I cut out all of the clear film, and it makes a big difference. So now they look like they're painted on there. Here's the underside decal. No decals on this one, on the underside anyway. So I did have an issue with the old Monogram decals. Those decals were like 40 years old, and they wouldn't come off the paper. So I found new decals. It came out pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead and prop this up on some balsa wood so that I can go ahead and, whoop, here we go, put a coat of clear flat, the Tester's dull coat, which is what I like to use. And I'll do the underside first, and then with it propped up here, I can then do the top, do it all in one airbrush session. So we'll get that done and see how it looks with the restored flat olive drab colors, and also the decals will be sealed, and then we'll be ready to begin the weathering process. I've got the dull coat applied, and it's looking pretty good. So we're ready to move on to the next step. All the decals literally look like they're painted on there. Looking pretty good. And here's the underside. So, yeah, we are ready. All right, I've got some random patterns of silvering on the underside here. And it's still a little wet. So just a little bit, that's all you want. And so now I'll go ahead and do the cowling fronts and show you how I do it. So you want to get rid of almost all of this paint. Otherwise, that's what's going to go on the surface, and you don't want that. So let's see what we can do here. That's all you want. Just a little bit here and there on the sides where the wind is hitting it. And that'll do for that one. And we get a little more paint here. And just a little bit. I don't want to always, less is always better with dry brushing. I mean with sponging. And with dry brushing too. So I'm going to get on the sides of this one just a little bit. There we go. You just want a little bit. You don't want to smudge it with your fingers. There's the other one. Just a little bit. And we'll go ahead and clean this cap. Set this aside. And this aside for now because we still got to do the top. And put this over here. So that's the silvering for the underside, and now what we're going to do is we'll mix up some pastels, put a little exhaust here, and then dirty up the bottom. So I'll show you how we do that in a few minutes, but I just want to let this dry a little bit more. This is a dark gray pastel, and this is a pastel pencil. It's not an oil pastel, it's a pastel pencil. You don't want to use oil pastels. And I've scraped a little bit onto the sandpaper here, and these are just makeup sponges, female makeup sponges, and they work really, really good to layer a layer of this dark gray to kind of dirty up the bottom and fade into decals. So I'm going to show you how I do this, and then we'll, once we get the underside done, we'll let it sit for a few minutes, and then I got to take it over and seal it with some clear flat. I'm dirtying this up so that it hides some of these flaws on the bottom. You want to go front to back, the airflow. You always want to go airflow. There we go. That's better. And it should be random. You can fade this in, work it in. We'll do one wing at a time. Dipping it into the dust and working my way across the wing. You can see how it's fading the decal. Dirtying it up a little bit and looking good. Always go front to back. Airflow. You don't want to go sideways. It's got to always be in the direction of airflow, which is always front to back. What I like about this technique is that it's not only foolproof, but it's not exotic. It's very simple, and it works really, really well. See how I'm working it into the surface. And now it looks pretty good. Get some more over here. Now it's also getting inside these where the flaps are, so it helps accent that. All right, that's all I want to do. So now what I need to do is go ahead and put a little bit of exhaust here, and I'm going to do that with some black, and it'll look pretty good. So let me put this aside because I got to use this for the some other stuff on the cowlings. So we'll go ahead and now we'll do a little bit of black chalking here on the exhausts. Got to get the right brush for that. This is what I use for the exhausts. A little bit of streaking. And it's not exotic. This is not an exotic process, but it works really, really well. And it will definitely give you some nice streaking. There we go. So that's all I want for exhausts. And maybe just a little bit there on the undersides. That's where the engines sit right there. So you get all kinds of stuff coming out of the engines. Okay. Try this a little bit. You do not want to touch this because you'll smudge it with your finger and you'll have a fingerprint here and you won't be able to get it off. So before I move this, I'm going to need to wash my hands and go ahead and then I can move it and we can get it sealed. Once it's sealed, you can handle it really, really easily. Yeah. Okay. I think that decal is sufficiently faded in. Maybe give it a little bit more. It's on the upside that it's really going to make a difference. Okay. So let me go wash my hands, and then we've got to seal this, and then we'll do the top side, and that'll be a light gray. I'll use some of this black on the top side around the cowlings, and then we'll get some silvering first, and then we'll do the pasteling. So I've got the silvering done on the top, and I definitely overdid it here and a little bit overdone here. So I'm going to show you how you can hide that with the light gray pastel, which will lighten up the entire upper surface. And I used these two brushes in order to do the streaking from the fuel vents here and on this side, and this heavier brush to do the streaking for the exhaust areas associated with the engines. And of course I made one side darker than the other, which is fine. So now what I'm going to do is I've got to put these away, and I'm going to use this light gray and this sponge to go ahead and lighten up the upper surface. And I've got this foam board here so that I can turn it without having to turn the aircraft, which will help prevent damage to the bottom. So let me go ahead and get set up, and I'll show you how I do it on the top. It's pretty much how I do it on the bottom, but with the lighter colors you got to be a little more careful. All right, I've got an adequate supply of the light chalk dust, and I don't want to put too much here. So I'm going to slowly work my way to the back, and it's kind of hard to get it. I'm going to have to fade this in more. There's way too much up here. There we go. I'm going to take these two plugs out. Gotta work it in there and get this faded. I'm gonna have to go the other way here to unfade this. I'm just gonna be careful how I do it. There we go, much better. All right. We are on our way. I'm going to go ahead and just work on the upper part here. Because that's where the sun tends to bleach stuff. Whoop. get a little more and do a little more here. What's going to happen is when I do a top coat to seal this, some of this will just kind of dissipate. Kind of hard to record this with the size of this model, but we are making progress. And you can see how the pastel is fading the decal. I gotta get in there a little bit. There we go. And it's all blending in and coming out pretty good. See how it looks once we get it all sealed. The dull coat tends to dilute it. Definitely got too much there. Got to do something about that. There we go. We're almost done. Okay, I think I need to get a little more over here. The only spot I don't like is right there. And I definitely overdid it. Let's see how it looks once I get a top coat on it. Okay, I think we're there. Yeah, I really wish I had not done that, but this is a good example of less is better, and this is definitely way too much. But what happened was my hand moved on me, and it ruined the effect. All right, well, I think we're ready to go ahead and dull it out with some dull coat and see how it looks. Everything looks great except for this area here. Dag nabbit. No. Okay. Let's see how it looks when we get get it sealed. So we'll go ahead and seal it, and we'll go back over it. I think what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and hit it with an airbrush to get rid of the dust and any residuals on this top piece here. And then we'll be ready to go ahead and, once I get it sealed, we can go ahead and take the tape off and move on. I've got all the remaining parts glued in place, and overall the model looks pretty good. You know, here's the small top side. Can only do so much with this canopy. It doesn't fit as well as I'd hoped. And here's the engines, and the propellers came out really, really nice. Here's the lights, landing lights. They came out pretty good. This side, the port side landing light, I had to sand it down just a bit to get it to fit better. And here's the landing gear. That came out pretty good too. And yes, you can spread the frames out on the landing gear and pop the tires into place. That's how I did it. You know. And finally, these tedious doors, which really don't fit very well, but you can make it work. There we go. So we'll call this a win, and charging up my trusty camera, and I'll go ahead and take some stills as part of the last video on this, and we'll call this one a win.
This concludes our series on building and detailing the Revell Monogram 148 scale C-47. As old as this kit is, it is a great kit to sharpen your scale modeling skills on, and when it's done, it's pretty impressive. So with that, have a great evening and happy scale modeling. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. And when you get the chance, visit our website at www.mikeashley.com, where you're going to find dozens of free PDF downloads, including tutorials, picture references, model galleries, projects, and my 5 original scale modeling books. Thanks to Bensound and Videvo for the royalty-free music, and happy scale modeling!